I'd like to congratulate the National Council of Resistance of Iran for the election of Mrs. Maryam Rajavi as its president-elect.
To ensure that the people of Iran take back their country.
It's so regressive. The rulers, the Shah of the past, these young, fearless people.
We've all been watching what's been happening in Iran for a long time.
Down with the dictator. Down with the oppressor, be it the Shah or Mullah.
In the name of human rights.
Testing the gas on the schoolgirls to develop it for future protests.
We've had one full debate on the Iranian issue, and I joined many other colleagues from both sides of the House in calling for the IRGC to be prescribed, and that was before these latest horrendous poison attacks against women and schoolgirls. I'd like to congratulate the National Council of Resistance of Iran for the election of Mrs. Maryam Rajavi as its president-elect, and I'd like to endorse, as I have done on previous occasions, her 10-point plan and other platforms to secure women's rights in the future of Iran. And I'd like to call on the international community to recognise Mrs. Rajavi and her 10-point plan. I welcome our government's declared position and determination to hold this regime to account. And I'm encouraged by the government putting women and girls' rights at the centre of our policy. So I believe we should have an independent international investigation into these attacks in Iran.
That the regime in Tehran are visiting human rights abuses on the population generally of that great country, but in particular the way that they are targeting some of the most vulnerable, like schoolgirls. The very idea that schoolgirls would be poisoned by their own government to try and intimidate protest, to try and intimidate girls away from education.
But the human rights situation has just become worse and worse, and this, I mean, the recent kind of protests and then this poisoning of schoolgirls, I think, what can one say? It really is time to just, for everyone to come together.
I want to say we're with you, all of us, in the Commons, in the Lords, in the UK Parliament. We're with you. We want to stand shoulder to shoulder with you. We want to make the world realise that this just can't go on any longer.
Violence against women is justified, legitimated by the rulers, enforced by no fewer than 26 so-called security agencies existing to corral and capture women, enforcing mandatory dress codes whilst denying decent lives to the people who live in poverty, too often abject poverty.
It's about 44 years of corruption, oppression, suppression, discrimination against women. That is why from day one people came out and chanted death to Khamenei, death to dictator. And at the same time they were saying death to the oppressor, be it the Shah or the mullahs.
They are playing their last cards to remain in power. People in Iran are chanting. And last Friday we had his slogans again. Down with the dictator. Down with the oppressor, be it the Shah or Mullah. The message is clear. They don't want the current misogynist and theocracy regime, and also they don't want to go back in history to the previous monarchic dictatorship. The revolution will happen in Iran, and this is what people want. They are chanting, don't call this a protest.